So, I'm a PlayStation guy. I follow a lot of PlayStation news. For some reason, this completely... I don't know if it was ever rumored. Like, there is a rumored God of War game that was in the works that was cancelled by... What development studio was it again? I think it was Bluepoint that was working on it, or something along those lines, alongside Bend, or Bend was working on something different. But basically, God of War was apparently rumored to have a Metroidvania that was going to be due out soon. I don't know how I completely missed this. And also at the same time, this image is being used from God of War 3, I think. Yeah. Is it God of War 3? Was it? Yeah, no, because the end of God of War 2 leads into the beginning of God of War 3. Because you have to fight Zeus at the very beginning of God of War 3. Wait, do you have to fight Zeus at the beginning of God of War 3? Because I know you have to fight Zeus at the end of God of War 2. But then, like, 2 ends on a cliffhanger that then 3 picks up from, because you've got the Titans helping you, and the Titans only help you after the event of God of War 2. Anyway, besides the point, yeah, so apparently there was going to be there are some rumors going around that God of War is going to go back to Greek mythology at some point. But in what shape or what form, we haven't really known, or at least I haven't been able to see much rumors besides the fact that there was a God of War live service that was being worked on that had been cancelled previously. But beyond that, apparently there was also a rumor of a 2.5D style Metroidvania game, similar in scope to Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. So I'm like, okay, God of War could potentially work in that space, given that you can take a third-person action adventure game and just flip it on its side. I mean, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown isn't the only example of this, but rather if you look at games like the Assassin's Creed Chronicle games. So Assassin's Creed Chronicles is smaller titles that were released in a year by Ubisoft, and basically they take place in China, India, and Russia. So Chronicles China, Chronicles India, and Chronicles Russia. I think there was one in Russia at least. I could be completely wrong about that. China and India, I know for sure I'm right about. But basically, they released these games in a year where there was no Assassin's Creed game. And I think this was probably after the release of Unity, I want to say. The following year after that, I want to say, yeah. Something along those lines. But basically, very similar idea. You're taking third-person action-adventure, turning it into a 2.5, or even just 2D side-scrolling, like sort of Metroidvania. And with Prince of Persia, again, Prince of Persia has had the third-person treatment across its sort of more darker days in the PS3/360 generation. But yeah, so I guess it could very well be possible. It's just that when I look at a 2.5D style or just Metroidvania style type of side-scrolling action-adventure title, it does make me wonder, hey, you know, the PSP could have potentially done that, but instead on PSP we did get like what felt like a proper PS2 God of War game instead, in the form of Ghost of Sparta and Chains of Olympus. But I'm really like digging into a history of God of War that a lot of people are not going to be familiar with, because keeping in mind that a lot of people now who are familiar with God of War most likely have only played God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok, which I'm going to put my hands up, I'm going to turn around, and I'm not going to look at anyone in the eyes. I have not played either of these God of War games. The only ones I've played is basically every game before that, because I've never felt compelled to go back and actually play God of War 2018 and Ragnarok, if I'm being honest. Because I feel like it was too popular. It was too highly regarded, I feel like. And for that reason, I feel like my views are going to be skewed to the negative, because when people prop something up too much, unless I'm genuinely feeling it, I probably wouldn't be too positive about it. But like, you know, God of War 1, God of War 2, God of War 3, God of War Chains of Olympus, God of War Ghost of Sparta, God of War Ascension. I have actually played Ascension, believe it or not. And that was like trying to jump into the multiplayer space with a God of War game, albeit that it was easily the weakest God of War game basically of all time. It was even weaker than the PSP games, and unfortunately we didn't really get a Vita God of War game, and we did get God of War games on Vita and PS3, but they were re-releases of God of War 1 and 2, and as far as re-releases of God of War, Ghost of Sparta, and Chains of Olympus, they came to PS3. I don't know if they came to Vita. I don't believe so, but I could be completely wrong about that. But yeah, I think I'm going in a little too deep into the history of God of War. But yeah, just to kind of, I guess, finish off this article because it is quite short. But the summer of not E3 announcements has come and gone without a mention of the release, leading to many to ponder whether it exists at all, and that is very true. According to well-connected Giant Bomb co-owner Jeff Grubb, the title's still very much on its way, but has been internally delayed into 2026 at this point. It tallies with various other rumors that's been swirling around that around this unannounced project, which suggests the scale of the size has increased. One supposed source claims that the outing has been postponed in order to add full voice acting as the release previously relied on text boxes. Assuming this is all true, then you can expect the final adventure to be of a pretty high quality, as you'd expect, perhaps expect from the God of War franchise. I'm just gonna stop right there and say pretty high quality, and then slowly look at whoever wrote this article in the eyes, Sammy Barker of course, and say, have you seen God of War Ascension? Nobody wanted that game, yet we still got it anyways, alright? I'm just gonna put it out there. I know I just talked about it, but all of their games are incredibly high quality in the God of War franchise. I will not deny how good everything looks and how good the game plays, except for 2018 and Ragnarok, because I haven't personally played those, but they look extremely good. While Ascension just didn't do as well. It focused too much on the multiplayer aspect, and people were not too keen on the multiplayer stuff. That's all I'm really going to say there. But it's interesting to see how all of this has kind of gone down. But with all of that being said, I'm kind of interested to hear what you guys have to say about this, because I've now talked about other third-person action adventure games, or just even action games really, that have a very similar style of gameplay, because God of War-like style of games has been around for quite some time. You know, third-person, over-the-shoulder, hacky-slashy, where you beat enemies and then earn abilities to then go to places where you can use those abilities to further progress along a linear story usually, except for, again, 2018 and Ragnarok, because they're more open titles. But I mean, with those two exceptions, of course, you know, a lot of games have taken a lot of liberties from God of War's gameplay and things like that, so I don't see why this wouldn't work alongside, again, talking about things like the Assassin's Creed Chronicle games, Prince of Persia The Lost Crown ideally being another one, hell, Rayman going 3D, and then obviously originally Rayman was a side-scrolling 2D action platformer, but hey, I mean, you know, started off 2D, went 3D, and then went back to 2D, because Lord knows 3D wasn't doing it that well, but I mean, Hoodlum Havoc was still a fine game in my opinion. That being said, yeah, I do wonder, like, I am interested in playing this because I love the Greek games, because I've lived and breathed those games so many times that it's not even funny. So I do kind of wonder, hey, how would all of this shake up? Let me know if you guys would be interested in this, and how many of the games in the God of War franchise you've played, because I feel like that's a very interesting way of looking at things, because like I said, more people are familiar with the two newest titles rather than the rest of the catalog that's been available to us for the longest time across multiple PlayStation platforms. That being said, however, let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel. I'm aiming for 500 subs by the end of the year, and with all that being said, I do upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.